Hi Flosstube, I'm Michelle from Michelle's Romantic Tangle, and this isn't quite the video I had planned to make for Flosstube number 30, but it's what I can do today, and if I don't do it today, it's not going to get done until God knows when. So we'll do what we can with the energy and patience I have, I guess. That sounded bad. So we went on vacation. We went to the coast. We stayed at my parents' timeshare for a week. It was an absolute blast. I usually don't do any stitching on our family trips. I've got kids and a husband, and usually we're traveling in the car, and I've never tried cross-stitching in the car. I don't think it would go over well with the family, and I know my eyes aren't good enough, and I can knit if I'm keeping my eyes off my knitting, participating in the conversation. Cross-stitching's not going to happen. But I also have learned from long experience, you always bring extra books and you always bring a project just in case. So I threw a couple of unopened kits into the car. One of them was, what is this called? Beacon at Daybreak. It's a Dimensions Full Petites. And I opened it up and I gridded my fabric and I took it down by the swimming pool because my boys are, the younger two at least, they're old enough that they really do not need me watching them while they swim, but they need that 18 or over person physically present. So I stitched by the pool 4 days and I had fun. I also did some stitching in the room, but most of my stitching was by the pool. I was working in hand and doing my stitching next to the swimming pool for most of the hours I put in on this. So it's the stitching is kind of all over the place because I was working with colors that would contrast with the fabric and things that I could do in the circumstances I was stitching under. And now that I'm home, I'm kind of filling in the gaps that I left. I love this one, guys. And I started a new shawl, but I am not excited about the new shawl to get up and walk across the room to get it to show it to you. It'll make it into the next video. When we got home, we stopped at an estate sale, literally on the drive home from the coast. And I picked up this book. It is Samplers and Sample Makers, an American Schoolgirl Art 1700 to 1850. And it's got pictures, and I'm really excited about this one. Lots of reading to do, so once I've read it and have actually an opinion besides, oh my gosh, look at the cover, it's gorgeous, I'll probably do a video about that one. The next day we went back. Everything was half off, and half off while I was looking at some potted plants turned into everything you can stick in a bag for $3. So I also got the Cross Stitchers Complete Companion, 500 motifs for every occasion, and 501 cross-stitch designs by Sam Hawkins. I do not know if I have this one or not. I keep finding it in the thrift store, and I keep telling myself not to buy it because I might already have it. But for $1, I now don't have to go up and search through all the bookshelves, and if it turns out I do have it, I will give it to one of my stitchy friends. And that will be fine. Oh, I'm discombobulated today. Beacon at Daybreak. I was hesitating on starting this one, or hesitating on claiming this one as a project for the Dimension Sal, but then I looked and Amityville has 3 kits going for her share of the Dimension Sal, so I'm claiming this one too, and maybe starting a couple more. Right before we left for the coast, I had seen someone post on Instagram that they found clearance cross-stitch kits at Hobby Lobby. And Hobby Lobby is enough of a drive from the house that I could not swing in a trip before we left. I thought I would try to go when we got back. And it was almost a week after we got back that I got to go. But there were kits, and I found them, and they were 75% off. So the first one is Meadow's Edge. It's a Jan Lynn kit, and I love full coverage, and I love the country look. And it was $8.74, and it needed to come home. I've got a growing obsession with still life, so Joy of Spring 1 by Jan Lynn Creations was a no-brainer. And I love Riolis, and I love vintagey looking stitchery, so Owner of the Jungle was also a no-brainer. There were a couple others that I debated strongly at. One of them was a full coverage piece with boxes that I eventually decided the colors didn't speak to me loudly enough. I desperately, desperately wanted the one with the snowy owls and had it almost all the way to the cash register before I realized most of it was a printed background, and embellished cross stitch is not my thing. I'm full coverage or nothing. Recently I've been watching like the preamble fabric that people are using on Lady of the Flag, and some with like trees and sheet music in the background, and I could totally get into that, but these others, they're like cheater quilts. So this is what I got. I used restraint, and I cannot wait to start stitching on these. I don't know if this means that they're going to replace those with new kits or if they're shrinking their cross-stitch section. I'm just, for the moment, going to be happy that I got some projects that I am really in love with, and they'll do what they will do, and I'll happily stitch these, and life will go on. I have also seen posts about yarn being on clearance, but I'm not going back. I'm still working on the yarn from last year. I don't need gorgeous, pretty new yarn from this year, self-control, and all of that. Please remind me of that. And I went and saw the movie Shazam, and it was really good. We both loved it. I'm not a good superhero movie person. I don't know enough about the origins of the characters, and I can't remember which character goes with which universe, and I really almost don't care which character goes to which universe. But the reason I'm going to talk about this here, there has been a heated discussion over in one of the homeschooling groups about whether you can take your kids to this movie. It has some dark scenes. The 7 deadly sins are like these gargoyles with glowing red eyes, and there is a scene where they bite a guy's head off, and it's not splattering gore. It's not explicit. But that scene is very, very effective, and when I had been little, that would have terrified me. My own kids would not bat an eye. I don't think they would have batted an eye when they were younger. They had a really, really good grasp of, this is a movie, this is real life, and so they don't scare like I scared. They don't scare like I scare now, guys. But the reason I'm bringing this up is I have seen several women, and I've been in a debate with a couple of them, saying this movie is the same kind of thing as Deadpool. I don't understand the comparison. I am not the target audience for Deadpool. My sensibilities are a little too delicate and fragile to fully appreciate it, although I did kind of like the movie. Shazam is not crude. There is some language. My husband was more conscious of the language than I guess I was. We're listening for different words, maybe. I didn't think the language was an issue. If you're worried about language, go check that on your own. If you're worried about the abandonment issues, that's not something I feel qualified to speak about. But there is some scary stuff. It is cartoon, not realistic scary stuff. But I know a lot of people weren't expecting it from the trailers, and so it's something worth considering. Other controversy, and maybe this is only a controversy in my own head, I saw someone last week, or 2 weeks ago, my calendar in my head is gone, talking about how she had been warned against old Dimension kits and started one and put a week's worth of work into it before realizing she should have listened to the detractors. So I'm going to speak in defense of Dimensions kits here. I have flip-flopped more than once about whether I love kits or I hate kits. Right now, at this point in time, my reason behind loving kits is everything I need to make this project is theoretically right here. If I had paid full price, everything I need would have been $34. I didn't pay full price. Sometimes I pay full price for kits, and even when kits are full price, I think that it's less expensive than buying a separate chart and separate fabric and separate floss. And it all depends on the subject matter. I love dimensions kits. I love landscapes. I love their subject matter. If you don't like that kind of subject matter, I am not trying to change your mind. Another thing I've heard people talking about with the kits is the quality of the fabric and the floss. My personal feelings are, yes, a lot of the Aida is super, super rough and crunchy, but if it's full coverage, it's going to be covered up. And if I'm working in a Q-snap and it's all stretched, I don't need it to be soft. I'm not really touching this very much. So that's not an issue for me, personally. If you feel differently, I'm not trying to convert you. I'm just thinking that, somebody else said I shouldn't do that because she doesn't like it is not always the best reason for making our decisions of what we do and don't like ourselves. I have not had huge qualms with the quality of the floss. Some of it, yes, is definitely different than DMC, and Little Girl with Cosmos, the white and near white, did not have the greatest coverage. But I was having fun stitching it. I am not trying to make an heirloom, and that is not a deal breaker for me. And I'm not a fan of the advice to buy the best quality you can afford, because you don't always need the best quality you can afford. If I was making a super special piece I intended to be an heirloom, then yes, maybe I would. I stitched my sister's wedding sampler with crunchy Aida and DMC, and it's now under a bed many years after her divorce, so who cares? I stitch to play with pretty colors and have fun and fill my time, and I don't always need the best of the best in order to make myself happy doing that. I have run out of floss on one kit. It is because I did not read the directions. It is because I was doing full crosses instead of half crosses, and it was my own dang fault. I don't worry on kits using standard embroidery floss. If I run out of floss, I will substitute some DMC and I will make it work. At one point, I was terrified. I don't know why I was so afraid of running out of floss, but that was the big reason why I made the jump from kits to charts, was that I could be as willy-nilly crazy with my floss as I wanted and not have to worry about it. And I've decided maybe that's not necessary. The other thing about kits that, still my least favorite thing about kits, is sorting the floss. Older kits, you will get a big bunch of floss and they'll tell you to figure it out. If I'm careful, if I print out a conversion chart and I figure out what color of DMC I'm looking for and come up with my best guesses for how the floss from the kit is supposed to go, and then compare to my Dimensions floss card, my DMC floss card, it works. I have the past couple of kits I'm working on, I don't think I've got any wrong. Maybe I have. I'm sure that when I'm using DMC that I've purchased myself, I also occasionally get the colors wrong, so this is not a deal breaker. The new DMC kits have color organizers. The floss is sorted. Different companies have different ways they're doing this. My whole floss sorting fear is not an issue with these. And the way I am doing it, I do not know how anyone else does it. Get the number of the floss, figure out which one I need, grab one strand, and then I just pull it up as tightly as I can get to the card. I'm not going to cut this, so I'm not going to pull it all the way. I'm usually within less than an inch, and I am able to snip the one bit that I need, and everything else is still on the card. Before I decided to do it that way, I was snipping off an entire strand, and I do have a couple of loose strands floating around in my project bag from my swimming pool stitching. That might not end well. I might need to substitute a couple of strands of floss from my stash, but that is okay. quickie summary of what is going on in my world and why this video didn't happen the way I wanted it to. You may have seen me mention that my grandfather fell a month ago in the nursing home and broke 4 ribs. Things have been going downhill since then, and I hate to say it's draining because I am not the one who is hurting, I am not the one who is in physical pain, and I am not the one who is dying. But it's hard. We also have flooding in Oregon, which our place is safe. My stream, we have 4 acres, and our stream extends about 20 feet farther than it should on either bank, but unless it takes out my septic system, and please God, do not let it take out my septic system, the house is not in any danger, and it hasn't done any significant damage. My daughter has high water near her place, but it's not done any damage. On Wednesday, I needed to pick my daughter up because we were going to go see Grandpa, and my husband came home. He had heard roads between her house and our house were covered with water. It turned out that they weren't. Highway 99W was closed. Highway 99E was not. And any other thing we had been going to do, I would have canceled for a week. But my decision-making process this week has been dependent on things that are totally out of my control, and it is wearing on me, and I am as close to not being able to do it as you can get while you're still able to do it. So, sorry to be glum, and sorrier for anyone else who has had significant property damage and lost their cars or their houses. I hope the water goes down soon. I am Michelle from Michelle's Romantic Tangle. Thank you so much for watching this, especially if you made it past this bit at the end. I hope to be back with another video soon. I will be back with another video eventually, but if it takes longer than anticipated, that's why.